Zambezi, a region on the extreme northeast of Namibia with a population of approximately 90,596 inhabitants, is a tropical region with vast fertile land and green pastures. The region has 8 constituencies. The region is often referred to as the food basket of Namibia, and it is the only region bordered by 3 countries, namely Angola, Botswana, and Zambia. However, as though the plague of COVID-19 isn't enough, the Zambezi region is experiencing another African migratory and red locust outbreak, which is extremely destroying the crops and grazing areas.
The outbreak of February early this year to up to now, the February was the first outbreak. It was still brought down to under control, to say, because that was even the critical time whereby farmers have their crops in the field, but many of them managed to harvest.
We prepared a media release to inform the public and the farmers at large, and afterwards we went on the ground to go and verify. After the verification, we called as consultative stakeholders to make sure that we work with other stakeholders that are involved in the management of the locust. From there, we went ahead again to make sure that we also presented to our regional councillors, and we also went ahead to inform the Honorable Governor, to inform the public at large via our local radio station here in Zambezi region.
If I tell you that the locusts that we might have here started in Central Africa, East Africa, so be it. They are not strong flyers, but they are helped by the wind. When the wind blows, they also go, and then they are taken far. So that's why you see them closing borders. They don't need passport like you and I and visas, so they can close anytime they want to. They can be coming from Zambia, they can be coming from Botswana, and then they can be coming from Zimbabwe, they can be coming from Namibia again, crossing over. So that's why sometimes you find we might accuse each other, no, they are coming from your region, no, they are coming from your region, but actually these are migrant pests.
The secret corner of Namibia largely contributes to the 70% of the country's population that depends on agricultural activities for livelihood.
We cultivate maize, mangoes, and vegetables.
The invasion of locusts is a nightmare to most farmers like Sukwa, whose family depends on crop farming for a living.
Tukateze kulia mmawa. Kulia mundale, nintanga.
Wamani kulia mundale wenu kapa.
Wamani unawa number 1 ziwa umani.
Uto ni kuti joku.
Una?
Uko.
Ukunji tubavyali hano.
Oho. Chole mbona kuti ne izizi huka. Kapa kazikwina. Kapa kwina muola kuwana chimu.
Kapa kazikwina tuola kuwana chimu.
Chole hanu.
Enti kuzina soka kwina chituola kuwana.
Cecilia, a mother of 3, living with her mother and spouse, further narrates the situation as a catastrophe.
Limile kasimu kambonyi. Peza pela kistapa pela kisimu. Sevezi anezi nyona mwani kona mwani ezanga kuli. Nafumana mateni mbhava mponyi ihulile na Alexa nikule kapateni kabupi. Mwani kutola fani kuti hande bakensa kuli. Mastapa mwani kona mwani fumananga sakucha sakufava nake.
The question from the nation is, who else is affected?
In a nutshell, we are all at risk because we are all depend on one another. So if the farmer is affected, household security food is affected, national food security is affected. So we are all actually indirectly affected. It's not like who is at risk, we are all at risk.
It is mythical that livestock is perishing due to consumption of grazing areas with locusts.
Ng'ombe hazienzi wala kuwana butuku ateni nikufue wala kufua Akuwana nje babatuambire kuti hairienze ola kuwana hatenu butuku. Ola butuku kena babutolo kuti butuku nzi.
The blotting part, to say that animals, when they eat a locust, they blot, not really, that is not a scientifically proven, but maybe research can still continue. But all I know is that once the locust eat on the grass, it cuts. It doesn't finish to the root. The grass also have a kind of like a fighting mechanism to fight its own defensive. So it kind of send a liquid, kind of, growing sort of like on the edge of the grass where it was eaten, like a wound actually. Even as when we have a wound, you realize that you have got some watery on the wound. It's not only an infection, but it's also a fighting mechanism to seal the wound or to fight bacteria. On the grass now, it kind of suits that properties, and then when the animal feed on that grass, and then they blot, because it has got some chemical element in it. That's why many farmers, they believe it's because a cow has eaten a locust, which is not true. It does not blot because of a locust, it blot because of that grass that has got that element of chemical on it. On it is all natural, it's not that it is sprayed of anything.
After all the destruction of the plague, locals question, what does this mean for the agricultural sector within the region and beyond? Will it ever come to an end? And will their crop live to be harvested?
Chale pansa ziva sakweza akoli nzezani nezifitire fateni first ngutoli fire hape fire liteni mwateni chwa hansa ziva koli nikaeza chwa nikapatuso kwa nikaifumana yakoli mwendili nzezani zikafe ya kikakai first hana likeni mwateni asika cha holo sivato fire mwateni chwa fire likeni mwateni sinyiza holo mbonyi engata. There
could be a second wave because in some areas adults are there and they are already mating meaning another generation laying eggs. Yes, you can have a second and a third provided the conditions are good enough. Because this is just a lifespan of 2 to 3 months depending on the cycle, depending on the feeding, if they are fed enough. So you can have that wave again, which is likely in the Zambezi region, can be in the month of February, or when they start cropping already. It becomes also a problem if we don't do any monitoring. Monitoring meaning we have to scout our fields, we have to scout our grassland, and sometimes our grassland, the area is so vast, it is actually a collective effort for everybody to do it. And then we are able to tackle them at the right stage. The right stage we talk about is when they are jumping, which we call hopper stage.
I would just advise our farmers just to keep on with their cropping calendar. We cannot tell them that they cannot go ahead with their plowing activities, but our normal life still goes on. We still have to produce to make sure that our region, Zambezi region, remains the breadbasket of the nation.
Local scouting, pesticides, spot spraying, and mounted vehicle sprayer are all the elements involved in controlling the spreading locusts.
We conducted a training of trainers which was involving our technical staff, where we trained them in the identification, how they can identify this African migratory locust. We went into the biology itself, we went into the ecology, we went into the management options.
Go into the field, look really maybe per square meter, is there any damage, or per 10 square meter, as much as you can, but those are your own eyes observations. Are there any damage? If there are damages, you also, farmers are able to tell whether it's a bite, whether it's a cut, whether it's something. On the symptoms, we are able to tell, this farmer is likely to have either it's a locust or is likely to have any other pests by the symptoms that the leaves can show. So if you don't do any monitoring, sometimes that's why you will find we are overwhelmed because no one did any monitoring, and by the time we all start reporting, it's the whole region reporting. and how do you handle the whole region at a time.
We spend more time on the morphological characteristics, which you can see with your naked eye, where you don't need a microscope or a magnifying glass. So that makes it easier for our technical staff to train our farmers on how to identify. We dispatched the team with vehicle-mounted sprayers, with mist blowers to kickstart the spraying campaign.
The live ones and the dead ones, only to see if they are recovering after being sprayed. We just sleep and maybe recover. And how long will it take for them to die if they are dying?
Known as a delicacy consumed by various cultures, suggestions have been that locusts can be cooked in many ways as a healthy meal.
Like if you go to East Africa, some they eat, consume them, yes, it's higher protein. They don't eat anything funny, but here we don't.
This being one of the amicable solutions to control the plague, agricultural scientific officers encourage communities to report swarms of locusts in order for the Ministry of Agriculture to attend to the matter.
When a team is in a particular area, they have to introduce themselves to the headman, they have to introduce themselves to the constituency office which is nearby, whereby they will be giving their numbers and say, if you come up with any swarm or anything like this, please call this number. And so far we have been receiving this information from the public, because most of the time they are the ones who are calling us to inform us that we have spotted a swarm of locusts at this particular area.
All they need to do is to monitor. Once you monitor your field, you are able to tell the nearest agriculture development center next to you. They can always come to help you.
The Ministry of Agriculture further made suggestions of what communities can do in their personal capacity to curb the spread of the pest.
When you don't have too much of the insect in your field, you can either hand pick, you can either dig trenches around the field. That's also something you can do if you know which direction they are coming into your field. It helps, but when they are really little, they are not jumping that very far. So you can catch them in those trenches and then just either bury them that you know they can die, or bend them. You can do that. Your hand pick. You can also sometimes do your own baits, but baits is not really much effective. But we also have a biological pesticide that farmers can also use. But this biological pesticide is what we call systematic. So they have to eat. As they eat, it gets into the stomach, and then that's how they get the fungus and they die. But of course, it is not a knockoff. It's not an overnight. It will take about 5 to 7 days. Collective effort always helps a lot. Even in the community, you find people, either they are retired or they were working before, or it's the youth who are not working. They can also be trained on how to use the machines, how to apply a pesticide. They can be helping people in the community also. If, of course, not for free, but they can be asking, or the community can put together, we have bought our own machine for these farmers on this side, and then please just show us what type of pesticide we can buy, how to use it, and then we calibrate the machine with them, we will do the calculation with them, and then they will know how to handle the machine. And then, because the government cannot, or the ministry cannot reach in each and every single farmer at the same time. So that can also help, so that the pest does not grow or outgrow out of the control, that you can do better. If the communities are trained, they know which stage to control with what pesticide, and have a better machine. They can help each other. Because the good part about it in Zambezi region, I realized that all the farms or the cropping areas are on one side, unlike in other areas where you find them scattered. This is an advantage.
Various stakeholders have since come on board to assist with the plague. Though hope is frail, The Ministry of Agriculture is confident on controlling the situation.
We have to cover as much as possible the farmers on the trainings, on the identification and controls. That is for both agriculture technicians on the ground, for farmers. It cannot be done by one person, it has to be a collective effort of all.
In every thing that we do, we need everybody to come on board. Because if it's just only a problem of Minister of Agriculture, we will not win this battle.
Nikupa fea kisakuli mwendi ministry kan to someone in heva kuni family yani kulikuwa ni kukusavo na hambonyi kuli mwendi nakola kuvya kwa teninto muliani kuli nzeza ni hasikata isikeza fele za ponyi ka fele.